it, but it's coming out in dribs and drabs. Why don't you just release the entire file as you promised to do?
I literally just told you, there are multiple federal court orders. I'm not going to break the law to satisfy your curiosity. You didn't join us when we filed court to release the court orders. You could have. You have lawyers. You could have shown up. You didn't do that.
That's a tiny fraction of the material we're talking about.
That is not.
It is a tiny fraction.
How do you know that? Have you seen everything?
It's all misdirection.
How do you know that?
This hearing starts with a promise and ends with a collapse. What you're about to watch is a slow motion unraveling of a very specific claim, not vague politics, not general talking points. A direct, on the record statement versus what happens when that same person is forced to defend it under oath. And it doesn't take long before the contradictions start stacking up. Because this isn't just about Jeffrey Epstein. This is about something much bigger. Control of information, accountability, and whether powerful officials say one thing in public and then retreat the moment they actually have authority. Watch how this begins. The questioner comes in prepared. Not emotional. Not ranting. He brings receipts. Video receipts. Past statements. Exact words. And that's where this gets dangerous for Patel, because once your own words are played back to you in a hearing like this, there's nowhere to hide. Pay attention to how quickly this shifts from confidence to defense.
Mr. Patel, before you joined the FBI, you railed against it for covering up Jeffrey Epstein's human trafficking ring. Let me refresh your memory with this clip.
It has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale? Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
So you finished that December 2023 interview with a challenge to the FBI and harsh words for Republicans in Congress for not getting the Epstein files out to the public. You can see this clip.
Boy pants, and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are, you said. You emphasized that the president and the FBI director each had complete authority to release Epstein's client list. You said Epstein's black book is under the, quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. Look at this clip.
This is way off the topic, but who has Jeffrey Epstein's
black book?
Black book.
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
All right, so you were sworn in as director more than 200 days ago. Now the black book is under your direct control. So why haven't you released the names of Epstein's co-conspirators in the rape and sex trafficking of young women and girls?
The Rolodex, which is what everybody colloquially refers to as the Black Book, has been released.
Oh, no, you're talking about what the journalist got 5 years ago? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what you were talking about there,
That's
the black
exactly
book
what I
under
was
the direct
talking.
control of the FBI director.
We have released more material than anyone else before. The Biden administration, Obama administration had the exact opportunities to release this material, and they never did. And if you are selling the men and women of the FBI,
Why
we're not
have you
going after
changed your
child predators.
position?
Hang on, you said we're not going after child predators. 1,500 child predators arrested this year, 35%
Okay,
increase,
I'll reclaim my time.
4,700 child victims
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to
found.
reclaim my time if you could instruct the witness. Why have you changed your position? There you were saying it's under the...
Right there, that's the setup, and it's brutal. Raskin doesn't start with an accusation. He starts with Patel's own voice, his own outrage, his own words calling the FBI evil for not releasing Epstein-related information. That's not subtle. That's not ambiguous. That's Patel, on record, demanding transparency and blaming the FBI for protecting powerful people. So now the question becomes unavoidable. What changed? And you can see Patel immediately pivot. Instead of addressing the core issue, why he hasn't released what he once demanded, he starts widening the frame. He talks about prior administrations. He talks about arrests. He talks about statistics. That's not an answer. That's a deflection strategy. And Raskin doesn't let it slide. He cuts straight through it and pulls the conversation back to the promise. You said you had control, so why didn't you act? This is where the power dynamic starts to shift. Because once Raskin narrows it down to Patel's own timeline, you've been in charge for 200 days, the excuses get thinner. And then Patel leans on a familiar defense. Everything that can be released has been released. Sounds clean, sounds official. But listen carefully. It's also vague. What does can be released actually mean? Who decides that? And more importantly, how does that square with what he said before when he insisted the FBI director had direct control? This is the moment where the narrative starts slipping away from him. And Raskin senses it. So he goes deeper. He doesn't just talk about the so-called black book. He expands it to everything. Computers, emails, financial records, seized materials. Now we're not talking about one document. We're talking about the entire scope of evidence. And Patel's answer doesn't evolve. It tightens. He keeps falling back on the same phrase, what the court allows. That's the shield now. But here's the problem. Earlier, Patel framed this as a matter of will, not legal limitation. So now, under pressure, that shift becomes the story. This isn't just a disagreement anymore. It's a contradiction playing out in real time. And from this point forward, Patel isn't leading the exchange. He's reacting
why have
to
you
it.
changed your position? There you were saying it's under the direct control of the FBI director and all of it should be released. Why have you changed your
Everything
position?
that has been lawfully permitted to be released has been released. And as I told you,
Really?
the investigation was limited. And let me make something crystal clear. I never said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic other people, other women, and they're not other victims. This is the investigation we were given from 2006, 7, and 8, and the search warrants from 2006, 7, and 8. That's what we're working with.
Well, wait, have you released all of the stuff that the FBI has seized from Epstein's house? The computers, the emails, the file cabinets, the documents? What about the financial records? Have you released all of that?
Everything the court has allowed us to
Which
release.
court are you talking about?
3 separate federal courts have come in and said.
We're
there are
talking about the
3
evidence you've got. It's got nothing to do with what those courts have.
Do you have any
We're talking
idea
about
how the
evidence-
law works?
Wait.
Do you want me to break the law in a federal judge's order?
No, I want you to
satisfy
follow your own
curiosity?
word, Director Patel. You said up there it was under the direct control of the FBI director. He had the black
And
book.
everything
have you released?
I have direct control over, we have gone to court. You haven't.
Complete
We
your
went
sentence.
to court.
Everything you have direct
We-
control over, you
we
said.
have gone to court, and everything we have direct
Director
control
Patel,
over.
complete your
and
sentence.
can
You said
lawfully
everything-
I'd like to
release.
the
We're
gentleman-
releasing.
He'd like to complete his answer.
You began the sentence, everything you have direct control over, and then you stopped that sentence. You've released everything that you have direct control over?
I have direct control over and can lawfully release. If you're not familiar with the court orders, that's not my fault.
Oh, I'm
Go
perfectly,
look at them.
I'm
Go
perfectly
to
familiar
court.
with them. But how did we prosecute Ghislaine Maxwell?
She was prosecuted with the investigatory material that was collected from 2001 and 2005 because of the non-prosecution agreements and the court orders on the investigations and search warrants. We were not able to develop new information. And oh, by the way, Jeffrey Epstein was out for 12 years, and the Obama and Biden administration did nothing to look at his work, his pedophile network. If you want to blame me, that's fine. But now you're blaming the men and women who conducted
No,
this
stop
great
that.
search.
I'm not blaming anybody other than you. You're not keeping your word. You said that you would release all of the materials
Has
under your
anyone
direct
released
control.
more information on Epstein than I have? Has
Well,
anyone?
much
did
more-
Comey, did Ray?
Much
Did
more.
they?
Excuse me. Much more has come out in the days since the American people in Congress have been demanding it. But it's coming out in dribs and drabs. Why don't you just release the entire file as you promised to do?
I literally just told you, there are multiple federal court orders. I'm not going to break the law to satisfy your curiosity. You didn't join us when we filed court to release the court orders. You could have. You have lawyers. You could have shown up. You didn't do that.
That's a tiny fraction of the material we're
That
talking
is
about.
not.
It is
How
a
do you-
tiny fraction.
How do you know that? Have you seen
No.
everything?
This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because now, the conversation isn't about what's been released, it's about what hasn't. Raskin zeroes in on the gap between Patel's past certainty and his current limitations. And Patel's defense? It hardens. He leans heavily into legality, court orders, federal judges, restrictions. He even throws it back at Raskin. Do you want me to break the law? That's a strong line. It's meant to shut the argument down. But here's why it doesn't fully land. Because Raskin isn't asking him to break the law. He's asking why Patel previously spoke as if those limitations didn't exist. That's the tension. And you can hear it when Raskin says, I want you to follow your own word. That's the moment everything tightens. This is no longer about documents. It's about credibility. And watch how Patel responds under that pressure. He tries to complete a sentence about everything we have direct control over, and then immediately qualifies it that we can lawfully release. That addition matters. Because it wasn't part of the original framing when he was criticizing the FBI before taking power. Now it's essential to his defense. That's not consistency, that's adjustment, under scrutiny, and Raskin doesn't let him glide past it. He keeps interrupting, forcing clarity, pushing him to finish the thought. This is what controlled pressure looks like in a hearing. No shouting. No theatrics. Just relentless narrowing of the question until there's nowhere left to pivot. And then, Patel escalates. He starts bringing up past administrations again. Obama. Biden. What they didn't do. That's a classic redirection. Shift the blame, widen the scope, dilute the focus. But Raskin shuts it down immediately. I'm not blaming anybody other than you. That line lands hard. Because it pulls the conversation right back to accountability, present tense, not past excuses. And from here, Patel starts losing control of the tone. You can hear it. The frustration creeps in. He accuses Raskin of not showing up to court filings. He questions his knowledge. He calls the argument misdirected. That's not a position of strength. That's someone trying to regain footing in a conversation that's slipping. And then we hit the final exchange. The one you saw at the beginning. Raskin asks the simplest, most direct question of the entire hearing. Why not just release everything? And Patel's answer is final, blunt, and defensive. I'm not going to break the law to satisfy your curiosity. That line is doing a lot of work. It reframes the question as unreasonable. It positions Patel as the responsible actor, but it also avoids the original issue entirely, the gap between what he promised and what he delivered. And that's why this moment sticks. Because no matter where you land politically, the contrast is clear. Before power, absolute certainty, aggressive demands, no nuance. After power, legal limitations, partial releases, and defensive explanations. That shift is the story. And in a hearing like this, where everything is on the record, that kind of shift doesn't just get noticed. It gets dissected. Raskin came in with a strategy, used Patel's own words as leverage. And for most of this exchange, it worked. Patel had answers. He had defenses. But he never fully resolved the contradiction that started it all. And once that doubt is planted in a hearing like this, it doesn't go away. If you want more breakdowns like this, where powerful people get pressed on the record, hit subscribe and drop your take in the comments. Who do you think came out stronger in this hearing, and what was the one moment that changed the whole exchange?